So here we are with Tony West, founder of first Roper and West, then owned LJ Hooker, and then founded Lacey West Real Estate. Thank you for joining us, Tony.
You're welcome, Will.
You've seen a lot of changes in the real estate industry. You started in 1980, was it?
1980, that's right.
1980. Other than long socks and short shorts, what have been the biggest changes that you've noticed within the industry?
Major change was technology, computers, and then online marketing. Advertising has had a big shift. It's a major contribution now to selling properties. So it'd be technology by far is the major change.
What about sales data? In 1980, I can't imagine buyers having access to what had sold in the street. So you probably wouldn't know what days on market are. Things could have been on the market for 6 months and you could pretend like it's a new listing. Did that happen?
Some properties were on the market for 2 years and no one knew. And they'd ask the owner how long you've been on the market, he'd say, a month or so. So yeah, there was no information available, so it was harder for a salesperson to come into the industry because they basically had to find all that information out themselves. Now, today, someone presses a button, they know what's sold in the street, how much for. That's a good thing, but it probably creates a bit of a lazy type of attitude to the industry. Whereas when I started, you had to get out into the field, you had to talk to people, find out what things sold for, and correlate all that together. So it was all in your head, not on a screen.
When did mobile phones come into it?
First mobile phone I had was in my car, probably late 80s, mid to late 80s. That had a shift too. Before mobile phones, you'd go home at night and you'd probably spend an hour or so on the phone because you couldn't talk to people through the day because you didn't have a mobile, they didn't have a mobile, they were on work sites. So it created some after hours work at home, getting on the phone and probably ringing sellers and buyers from home.
So we talked a little bit about how the real estate industry changed. What about Burleigh? When did you first come to the Gold Coast?
Well, end of 1977, and the Gold Coast was basically a string of towns joined together by the Gold Coast Highway. There were half a dozen sets of lights between Coolangatta and Surfers Paradise, so it was a pretty easy sort of town to come into.
Obviously, you've seen a lot of change in that period. Do you agree with all the developments happening? Are you pro for the tram? Are you negative on the amount of traffic that's here? A lot of Burleigh locals that have been here for a long time are, a little bit negative towards some of the changes they've seen around development, public transport, parking meters along at 7 a.m. in the morning.
It's probably hard for me to be negative on the growth of the Gold Coast because in our industry, we create that growth. We're selling land to developers to build 8, 10 or 50 units. So I understand that a lot of people my vintage are now finding the Gold Coast too busy, and some of those are moving west to country areas, some of them moving to northern New South Wales. But as far as the development, to me, I haven't found it that difficult to contend with. But then again, I've been here for a long time and you become acclimatised to it. Whereas I know people that leave here, come back 5 years later, and they find it difficult that it is so busy. The tram's here, almost here. We can't change the tram. So I believe it should continue through to Coolangatta. That remains to be seen. But the tram's here. There are trams in other cities around the world. So I think once it's here and running, we will be able to accept it more so than we do now. The issue we've had with the tram is the time frame to build it, which is, to use a word, probably ridiculous. So and that's created issues for all of us that live on the strip between Burleigh Heads and Momo.
So you've seen a lot of agents come and go in your lifetime. You've been a boss to a lot of successful agents. You've seen a lot of people exit the industry. What do you think sets apart the agent that rises to the top, gains market share, to the person that exits the industry after a year or two or three?
I think there's 2 points there, Will. I think the first point is that a lot of people come into the industry for the wrong reason. They come into the industry because they see it as a money-making enterprise, and they don't realise the work needed to make a success of it. So I think, first of all, people come into the industry for the wrong reason. Secondly, what makes a better from an average? It's purely, I think, discipline and focus. But if you're disciplined, you are focused. Whereas some people, it's an easy industry to come into work at 8 o'clock, leave at 6 o'clock, and think you've done a good day's work, but they've had coffee, they've had chats with people in the office, they've scrolled their phone for 3 or 4 hours in the day. So I think the difference with the better agents and the people that rise to the top is they're disciplined, they focus, and probably one of their main contributions to their success is their communication. They communicate with people, not just via email. They talk direct to people, either via phone or with meetings. It's still the most important thing to do, is to talk to people directly.
What about work-life balance? Was that a thing in the 80s when you started?
No, it's sort of a catchphrase now, work-life balance. My attitude is, if you only want to work 2 or 3 days a week, you shouldn't be in the job you're in. You obviously don't like the job. If you like the job, it's not hard to spend 5, 6, or even 7 days there. Work-life balance, it was around. You do have to get it right. I think the secret to our industry is being able to switch off. So when you're with family, when you're with friends, is to make that transition, and I know it's difficult, is to make that transition from not thinking about work, because in our industry we carry that, what happened to that buyer, is that seller going to sell, all those things are spinning around in our head. So to get the work-life balance right, I'm not saying you only work 25 hours a week. You can still work good solid hours, but when you're not at work, when you're with other people, family, friends, is to cut off, switch off, and focus on the moment.
Why did you get into real estate?
Purely by chance. I was in the building industry.
Roof tiling, yes.
Well, I was a brickies labourer before that. Then I was a roof tiler for a few years, and I injured my back. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have any experience. Worked on a farm before labouring. I'd always had an interest in real estate.
Do you think you would have played for Queensland Origin team if you didn't hurt your back?
No, I would not have. As most retired footballers, we're all bigger legends in our own mind. But no, I wouldn't have. And that's the other thing, that ties in with what you asked me before, why do people succeed? If you don't like what you're selling, if you don't believe in what you're selling, you're not going to be successful at the job. I saw values increasing in real estate, so I saw it as a solid long-term investment.
So you hurt your back. Then what, did you find an ad in the paper or something? Or
yeah, well, in those days, that was 1980, back operations weren't really much of an option. So I just saw there was a couple of ads in the Gold Coast Bulletin, which I applied for, and I got one here in James Street at Burleigh with Reg and Gwenda Webster, who I still have contact with. And as you know, we just sold the unit on the Esplanade for the Websters 45 years later. So
it's a long sales cycle, that is, 45 years.
Fortunately, starting with Reg, he had a very strong work ethic, and it helped me come into the industry. He was probably, at the time, I thought he was hard on me, but he did me a favour. He had a strong work ethic, and he expected people working beside him to have that same work ethic.
What's been your most enjoyable sale in your entire career?
Well, it's
Just one.
Nah,
Just one. Just one.
It's
Only one.
The enjoyment is not the sale. The enjoyment is the people that you deal with, really. The sale is just part of the process. And as you know, Will, now with your experience, we meet a lot of great people. We meet people that treat us well, they're loyal to us, and the enjoyment part is coming from dealing with those people. And over the years, you meet people and you do one transaction with them, and in the end, you become very good friends with them. And there are some people I've done 100+ transactions with. Like one guy I started dealing with in the mid-80s, we sold the property for him last year. So that's a sort of 40-year span.
So you won't answer the most enjoyable sale. Okay, what about the weirdest transaction?
Some of that is not appropriate because I have opened some doors and found some very strange things going on, and
you didn't have to give
it wasn't
back in the 80s.
It wasn't a fashion display, so there's been a lot of I suppose the question the question you're asking, it's a great industry because most days you have a plan, but you don't know what's ahead of you because things pop up, things happen, and sometimes you think, gee. But you learn to adjust, and you learn to. So to get back to your question, there's been a lot of weird things happen, not all printable.
Do you have any regrets about being in real estate?
No, I don't. It is time consuming, but they say there are two things in life. One is discipline, one is regret. So if you're not disciplined, you will have regrets. No regrets at all about real estate because probably 80 or 90% of my friends now I've met through the industry.
Was there anything early in your career that is memorable that shifted your career into a different direction?
Anything memorable from dealing with prima donnas, you mean? Or I think you find in life that some people can be a sports star or a very wealthy person. Some people are good to deal with because they're not self-absorbed. So when you meet those people that are famous or half famous or have a big reputation and they're very comfortable to deal with, it does teach you to keep a level head. It's an easy industry to become big-headed. You have half a dozen quick sales, you think you're Superman. So meeting those sort of people that have got a high profile and that are very good to deal with and treat you well is a lesson in life. Yeah.
Longevity in the real estate industry is difficult. How have you remained up to date with the current trends over such a long period of time? Like you look around at the other agencies, everyone else that is a similar age, even some that are younger at your age have sort of left the industry, haven't been able to deal with the pressure and burnt out.
Two things. If you like what you're doing, it's not that difficult to stay at it. And the other point is being able to switch off at relaxation times. You surf, I surf, I ride a bike. When you're with family, and the longevity also comes about by the support you get, the support I've got from your mother. So those things all put together allow you to stay in the industry longer. And as you said, it is not easy because especially today, You can get a phone call any time of the day. You can get an email. You can get emails all through the night. So
text messages. I get text messages like 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
6 a.m. in the morning.
So when I started, people gave you some privacy, more so, probably because they couldn't contact you as easily. They might wait till business hours, till your office opened, and then after hours, some people would ring you at home, which is, we were all listed in a telephone book, so people could find you. Some people had silent numbers, but getting back to your question, you've got to like what you do. If you look at, not just in real estate, we deal with people that have been, doing developments for 40, 50, 60 years. They're still they're still doing what they're doing because they enjoy it. So if you don't enjoy it, as I said earlier about the work-life balance, if you don't enjoy it, find out what you do enjoy and you'll find life a lot easier.
So if we fast forward, come off a tractor or something on the farm and you've passed away and we're sitting in the church, your funeral's just happened and there's a eulogy happening and people are speaking about you, what do you think that they will say?
They would probably say he was okay, but there would be a lot of buts to go with the okay. So I think that's what people would say.
Oh, that's it.
That's it. There's none of us are perfect, so.
I think it's expanded a bit more just on changes in the world.
It's been a very funny. It's been a very gradual thing, mate.
Yeah.
Probably more so than Palmy. Like Burleigh has like, we've been dealing with developers and builders since I started. So that ongoing development thing has, like when you live here, you sort of get acclimatized to it. Where I know people that have gone elsewhere and they come back in 5 years' time and they say, shit, what's, but we don't even notice it, So I suppose the major thing is the light rail, and there's been a lot of protest over it. But then I think today, if you plant a tree, someone will protest. So how do you keep the growth without having that sort of
Progression?
Yeah. Someone said to me the other day about the light rail, and I said, well, I was in Geneva recently on a trip to Europe, and it's one of the financial capitals of Europe, and they've got a light rail. So I said, if Geneva can handle it, we should be able to. We have had lots of downturns over my period in the industry, and during those periods, a lot of the people that were doing developments went broke, basically, because the market turned, there was a lot of stock on the market, and people had to bail out. Currently, the whole situation's changed because we don't have the land banks we had in the 80s, 90s and into 2000, whereas there was plenty of land available. A builder could think he was going to make some money out of a spec home, he'd buy a block of land and go ahead. And the other point you've got now, there's probably less developers because it's a lot higher benchmark to get into. You can't go and do a spec home, buy some land and do a spec home for 700,000 or 800,000 anymore. You can't build a block of 6 or 8 units for a couple of million. Now all that stuff is 5, 10, 20, 50 million. So the land bank situation has changed the Gold Coast, and that's why our marketplace is much more stable, because we haven't got that big build-up of surplus stock. People, and before, people didn't really do any homework as to how many people are coming here, how many properties do we need, where all that's done today. But in those days, you're a builder, I'm the painter, I see you making money, so I decided to do a specky. So those things added to the stock levels, and I seriously don't think we'll see we can't see those stock levels again because we haven't got the land. You know, if you go from here to the motorway, there's very little vacant land available. You could get an approval in a month, and you'd build a house in 10 weeks, 8 if you were quick and 12 if you were slow. Today, that approval process takes a long time, and you talk to someone expecting to get a house built under 12 months, and they think you're crazy. So why has that happened? I'm not sure why our construction industry takes longer, and everything's more costly. Once you lodged a plan with council, it was approved. Now, how many consultants do you need to get a plan approved? 4, 5, So that has changed a lot. Burleigh itself, as we're looking behind us here, has had high-rise for a long time. There's a lot more now, but as I said, our neighbour, which is Palm Beach, that's gone through a major construction boom in the last 5 years, and it's probably more than double the amount of high-rise that were there 5 years ago.
What's your outlook on the residential and commercial market over the next 5 years?
You mean on prices going up or down or sideways? I think it's very hard to predict things. A lot will depend on interest rates. They are talking about a slight lift next year, but as I said before, because of the lack of supply, because of the shortage supply, we've got the Olympics coming to Brisbane. That's going to absorb a lot of tradespeople. It's also going to create a lot of jobs. There are still people moving here from other parts of Australia. So I believe the outlook for the whole of southeast Queensland, which includes the Gold Coast, is positive.
What about the commercial market? Same?
Same with the commercial. There's not a lot of stock. We used to have acres and acres of industrial land available, vacant industrial land available. Now we sold a property this week for 3.3 million with a warehouse on it. They're knocking that warehouse down and building new product. So same for the commercial industrial.
Why is it that you're selling a lot of stuff off market in the commercial?
With residential, it's different. People are usually selling, they have a reason they're selling. They're moving away from the Gold Coast. They're moving into a bigger property. They're downsizing. So they have a lot more reasons to come onto the market. Where our commercial seller, they tend to think about selling. They ring us up, say, look, what do you think it's worth? What's going on? We give them an opinion. Someone rings us up and says, hey, I want a box of apples. We just looked at a box of apples. We ring the owner up and say, look, I've got a buyer. What do you want to do? And they don't all, but some say, well, why don't you show them and see if they're interested? But I would want X. The off-market stuff is always more dominant in a strong market. In a tougher market, there's plenty of stock, so you're busy selling what you've got. You don't need extra properties to show buyers normally. There's the odd reason, but normally. So that's why commercial. I think this calendar year we've sold over or about a third of our properties without going to the marketplace. And there's another reason for that as well. As you know, marketing now, it's not a $100 ad in the Gold Coast Bulletin. It's 5, 10, 15,000 of marketing to get the full spread. And some people think, oh, well, I'll save that and, pay the agent instead. So,
Thank you, Tony.
thanks, Asher. I had to bring the bricklaying in, mate. Sorry about that.